back and bigger than ever. It's the unofficial 40 from Soonerscoop.com. Now, here's the entire Sooner Scoop crew. Carrie, Josh, Eddie, and Bob.
All right, we are back. It is the unofficial 40 right here on Soonerscoop.com. Want to wish everybody a happy holidays as we are headed towards Christmas, the final podcast. Wait. Before Santa comes down that chimney, hope you got all your Christmas shopping done. If not, that's on you. That's not on me. So I think I've got all mine done. Josh, do you have all yours done?
I do, as a matter of fact. Finished that on Monday. So, you know, it's... But I'm an early shopper.
Are you one? Oh, God, I can only imagine. Josh is, yeah, that's right up your alley. I would assume that's up Bob's alley, too. Finishing early, Bob.
Yep. You got it.
I can't stop, though. Like,
I got a wrap, but...
Does your wife do anything?
And I have to build things. I have to construct things. And then 40
That's
hours.
the story that nobody tells you when you go into fatherhood is the midnight construction, because we can't actually open the box until she's gone to sleep. And then we have to construct all of it. And it's got 7 million parts and 1,200 stickers.
Well, for all of our dads that listen to this, they're talking about the elves, kids, that come and put things together last minute. Yes.
Absolutely. We really, God, that's bad, Carrie. You're right. We should go back. There should be a warning there. If you're riding with your children, mute it for a second here. We're going to mess something up.
No, but I'm one of those guys that I did finish all my Christmas shopping, but I can't help myself. I went to Guitar Center for my nephew. I'm giving him an old bass that I have because he wants to start playing bass guitar, and he's played drums since he was little. He's really good. He's in college now, but he wants to join some bands and play with buddies and stuff like that, and maybe get some gigs. So he wants to take up. He's a singer, and he wants to take up playing the bass so he can sing more. And so I'm giving him this old bass that I have that I just don't ever use. And so I was like, I got to get a case for this thing. So I get a case, and that's $100. And I was like, he needs an amp. And so then another $100 on an amp, and then you're getting picks and cleaning supplies and cloths. And then I got my dad. I hope he's not listening to this. He won't listen. And then I got him an amp for his acoustic guitars that I bought him just to keep him sane during the pandemic. And then I'm buying an Eagle songbook so he can learn. It's just. And this was like, I thought all my shopping was done. But no, $500 later, I'm out of Guitar Center with more crap.
That's impressive. Like we thought we were done with the girls and then threw in some late gifts over the weekend that added up a little bit. But that's a good late haul. We got to come up with a term for that. I think I'm done with shopping.
I felt like I had to support Guitar Center, though, because they go bankrupt every 6 months. They really do.
I was going to ask. They filed bankruptcy.
I mean, I'm all for supporting the little man, too, but, I go to the Norman Music Shop in the other place I can't remember the name of. Anyway, it's got a weird name. But, no, I'm looking forward to Christmas. I am going to go have a small gathering, just me and my mom and dad. So that's going to be good. I didn't go down on Thanksgiving. I had a slight COVID scare. I did not wake up feeling good the morning of the Big 12 championship game, had a sore throat, so I decided better not to go. Got my rapid test Sunday. I was negative, so I got over it pretty quick, whatever little gunk I had. So everything's good. I'm looking forward to Christmas.
I was telling my mom today, it's crazy just being in town for Christmas. I know, as weird as that sounds.
Yes.
Yeah, for us,
yes,
it's an anomaly.
Yep.
And we had Cotton Bowl Zoom Media Day yesterday. It was an all-day affair, pretty much. A little bit of shit-talking from linebacker from Florida, which was interesting. Like, I could just see, like, Mike Houck, if an OU player was doing that, just tackling him.
Just
Muting him.
Lincoln, I don't know what's happened. We lost the feed. I don't know what happened.
I kind of feel like that's something that Dan Mullen would encourage. I don't feel like he gives a shit.
Well, he was kind of worried about other things that day. like recruiting violations that came to surface.
Yeah, that's right. Who was the player? Does anybody know?
Andy Staples, I think, outed the player today because
really?
It was the athletic.
Jimbo.
Yeah, Jimbo Fisher, the exact same kid.
I didn't click it though.
Got violations for it as well.
Right.
But they knew the high school. He might not have said the kid, but he knew what year he was. He knew what high school it was. I think they released all that stuff. But I guess it was all based on the fact that school has a lot of security cameras in it. So basically every coach that cheated got caught. And by the way, some good news for Sooner fans. Arizona has filled their head coaching position with some guy that most people have never heard of before, including Arizona fans.
That was literally one of those hires that Schefter tweeted Wednesday morning. I was like, who in the is this guy? I've literally never heard of him.
Can you imagine being an Arizona fan? You wake up to a guy with 2 D's and Jed and C and Fish. Like, I'm getting trolled here. Somebody's fucking with me.
Well, would you rather be Arizona or would you rather be Auburn?
You're an Arizona football fan, and you'd be like, well, all right, whatever. I deserve
this. This fits. This makes sense. Sure.
Who's in worse shape, though, Arizona or Auburn?
Arizona, 1,000%. Now, Auburn is just, I mean,
their
we talk
search
about
is
Texas.
Right.
We talk about Texas being run by power brokers. It seems like Auburn is just run by basically a committee of old rich white guys. It's like all the guys that stood up to Marshall Henderson in that famous gif from college basketball. That's who's running Auburn right now.
Well, it's a lot of it. I know I should ask Jay Tate exactly who they are, but I've had these discussions. Like Ole Miss is this way, Auburn is this way. A lot of their big donors are like fast food magnates. Like their Ole Miss, our Ole Miss site, like one of their biggest sponsors is one of those guys. Like on their podcast, he does like all the Crystals hamburgers and has like all those franchises. And I think it's the guy that was Michael Oher's stepdad or his adopted father, or whatever. Like he's like owns all the Taco Bell and KFC chains or something like that.
Tui?
Yeah, Tui. That's where his money is from. And Auburn has a couple of bankers, I think, and a lot of fast food, barons, basically, that make all their. So, I mean, just imagine you own a whole lot of Taco Bells and you're determining a multi-million-dollar. I mean, it's not like Boone Pickens, a corporate raider, basically.
I don't know. I'd probably trust the guy that created Checkers with my life.
I like Checkers, man. Rallies and Checkers. That's good. Those are good hamburgers.
I might take that chance.
And it's amazing that Lincoln Riley, after interviewing last Thursday, was able to still coach in the championship game.
Good point, Bob.
I forgot about that one.
It really is impressive that they were able to decide to pass on Lincoln Riley that quickly and just be ready to pivot to Brian Harsin. Like that, you wouldn't recognize those two as a natural evolution, but that's a pretty impressive way that Auburn made that work.
Well, and it doesn't appear that you have to worry about Boise and Alex Grinch because Boise appears they're like the Mormons of football. They only deal with their own. Like every single one of the candidates that Bruce Feldman released today has either played or coached under Peterson at Boise.
How have they not already hired Kellen Moore? That seems like the most slam dunk, needs to happen thing of all time.
Maybe he wants to be a head coach in the NFL.
I was going to say, I wonder if he is an NFL guy at this point, if he's just kind of more connected to that than he is the college game. But you're right, Eddie. It makes all the sense in the world on paper.
I think it was Feldman or Staples. I don't know. One said that was it Wilcox that's at Cal or not?
Cal. Mm-hmm.
Is he at Cal? Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
That he could go back. He's 21-21 at Cal, which is just enough to not get you fired at Cal.
I think so, and I don't feel like he's done that bad of a job. Cal's a tough job, man.
Yeah, I was just thinking like that's not that bad at Cal considering where they've been. I guess, but
Cal Berkeley in football.
Spike Dykes had a pretty good program out. Or I mean, not Spike. His son had a pretty good program out there.
Cal Berkeley in football could not be on more opposite ends of the spectrum. Like that's like babies and tigers, putting them together.
We are not condoning. We are not saying do this.
No, I'm just saying.
Crossover between Tiger King and Baby. What's the stupid little
Baby King?
Yeah, something like that. I was thinking of like a crossover between Tiger King and Baby Boo Boo.
What's that?
Oh, Honey Boo Boo.
Honey Boo Boo. Okay.
Yeah.
There you go. My fault to the TLC watchers.
Well,
I'm a little ashamed that I knew where Eddie was going with that. That I feel a little dirty about it.
As you should.
So anyway, I mean, Josh, Bob, we have not gotten your thoughts on the Big 12 championship. Iowa State, that 5-star culture did not beat 5-star talent.
I will defer to the man that was there. I mean, before Bob can shame me.
Well, I just kept telling you guys, like in the second half, it's like we're a drive away from a blowout, and you just come to that realization that for whatever reason, this offense doesn't click 60% of the time, and it's still enough to get wins. It's just a different feeling, though.
It really is. I mean, and honestly, it wasn't until really, I think when it went 24-21, I was like, okay, maybe this could happen. That defense was just playing so well. I was like, there's no way Iowa State's going to put up 20-something points here in the second half. I just don't believe it. And, I mean, now they nearly did.
The time of possession in the second half was horrendous. OU's defense was out there the entire time.
And as good as they are and as much depth as they're developing, you just can't 3 and out forever against what is a really talented Iowa State team. I mean, guys, how often can we say that Iowa State has, at the 3 major skill positions, has NFL guys? To forget Charlie Kolar at tight end. I mean, they've got, 4 or 5 NFL guys in the skill positions at quarterback, running back, obviously Xavier Hutchinson. They've got 2 tight ends that are those kind of guys. And they've got a couple of offensive linemen that are going to be, probably at best journeyman type guys. But, I mean, that's a really talented offense that Oklahoma largely just shut down for 45, 50 minutes of that game.
Yeah, I mean, it was a really impressive performance defensively. And, look, I understand everybody is the main kind of the low-hanging fruit take is, I hate how Lincoln Riley is so conservative. He's become more conservative the longer he stays here. That literally, I mean, what I took a note of that game is that's the first time Lincoln Riley's ever been able to say, you know what, I'm going to make a conservative decision here because our defense is playing as well as they are. Like, when can you point to a big game? What's the last big game that OU decided to punt on 4th and 2, at midfield just because their defense was playing so well? And it was, and you thought that's the right choice.
That's exactly right. People are wanting and I get it. Like, it's hard for me, it's hard for us to adjust to this new reality where Oklahoma can count on their defense. They can believe those guys are going to make the plays and get the ball back to them, and we don't have to take risks that are unnecessary or put ourselves in a bad way. By mid-second, early third, you knew what that game was going to be. It was going to be Iowa State playing against long fields, Oklahoma punting to them, trying to maybe get a score or two to finish things off. And obviously, until very late, they didn't get it done. And you've got to give, obviously, Tre Brown a lot of credit for his 2 big kickoff returns. But, I mean, Oklahoma played the game in the style that it was there to be played and the way they could most readily win. Being aggressive and having Spencer Rattler throw the ball all over the field. And honestly, guys, the he gets conservative thing, I don't know if I thought Oklahoma was physical. I mean, they weren't physical enough up front, but I think that has more to do with the players. But secondarily, I didn't feel like Oklahoma was being real conservative play calling. I wish they would have established the run a little bit more.
Exactly.
I'm just not sure that they could.
There was, I think, throughout the third quarter, maybe towards the end, they started trying, but I think this is right. I think Ramondre Stevenson went into half with 12 carries, and I think for the good part of the third quarter, he only had 3. And he might have had some there at the end.
For the game.
Yeah.
So they just didn't use it that much in the second half.
And that is, I mean, if you're gonna say Lincoln Riley has one blind spot, it's always been that. It's always been not forcing the run game enough. It goes back to his first year in that loss against Texas. That is a legitimate criticism. Not he gets too conservative. Like Josh said, if he was conservative, he would have forced the run even more than he did.
Absolutely. He was throwing the ball. You can't say conservative up 17 throwing the ball. That's not by any definition a conservative offense. Guys, to me, it always goes back to that Georgia game where Oklahoma just dominated on the ground up front and then for some reason got overly crafty with it. You were like, you're winning up front, do this. And this game didn't feel that way. I mean, I kind of understand why he was still throwing the ball, why he was doing that, because Oklahoma's offensive line last 2 weeks has looked a lot more like pre-Texas than post-Texas.
Yeah, I agree. I love that play where he faked the handoff to Ramondre Stevenson, and then he just kind of dribbled out in the middle of the field and he hit him on a pass. That was a great play design.
Yes, that was a nice wrinkle throughout that game. It was open a couple times.
They're I mean, that GT counter, I mean, I think we all know that defenses are so keyed on it. Oklahoma's finding a lot of great ways to spin off of it. And that one's not as direct as some of the other stuff we've seen. But there's no question. OU's like, okay, you want to go so hard at this and you want to commit so many bodies to it. Okay, we'll bootleg Spencer out on the backside.
We'll
flood the other direction.
Was that a GT power that Chandler Morris scored his touchdown on?
I believe it was. I need to go back and look. I was so busy focused on Morris. Because, guys, I can't lie. When he took that ball, I didn't think he was going to score. I was like, there's no way he gets in. He's not going to outrun that guy. Because I think it was Orion Vance, who's a really good linebacker for Iowa State. And he just beat him to the corner. I mean, he continually surprises me with the level of athlete that he is.
Was Xavier Hutchinson the best player on the field that day?
I would go with Perrion Winfrey, but I could make the case for Hutchinson for sure.
He's really good. Or
Benito. Benito had great moments in that game.
Yeah, the best for the Cyclones, for sure.
Yeah, I came away really impressed by him. I mean, Florida's going to have some dudes, even though they're losing Pitts. But, I mean, that's going to be a lesson about, guys that run after the catch. I mean, he's a powerful runner, good receiver. Couldn't have been more impressed with somebody. And
yeah.
I'm impressed by Breece Hall, but he just obviously Oklahoma's defensive line was a lot better than Iowa State's offensive line, and they lost, one of their starters at left tackle early in that game.
I just put something in the idiot where I was I'm about to halftime all these days later. I know it's a chaotic week, but with about a minute to go, he busts off a 15-yard run in the second quarter, and it's his longest run of the game. It would be through the end of the game. He's at 13 carries for 52 yards. He ended with 23 for 76. So basically over the last 31 minutes of football, he had 10 carries for 24 yards.
There was a time in that game where the only offense they had were Brock Purdy's legs.
Yeah. I think we can – and again, guys, that was a Joe Moore semifinalist team. I mean, that's a good offensive line that is probably more about the sum than the parts, but it's a good group. And Oklahoma just whipped them for 3.5 quarters. I mean, until basically Oklahoma's defense just got tired.
I never got to talk with Pat Field. I requested him for the postgame. I requested him for the Cotton Bowl. But I just remember talking to him after Ames, and that sounded like the most depressed he's ever been in his life. And for him to get the interception, to have one of the three, after he missed all those chances in Ames, really just wanted to get his thoughts about the redemption storyline. But, that's what it was. Brock Purdy gives you chances. They didn't do it in October, and they made them count on Saturday.
Was Buki the only one that had a chance at a pick in Ames and didn't get one in Dallas?
Yeah.
Because I know Pat had one. I know Norwood had one. And did Tre have one? Did he drop one in Ames?
No, he had the bad holding penalties. And
That's
stuff
right.
like that.
That's right. You're right.
Well, speaking of Tre, he's out of the bowl game, opting out. I thought it was interesting yesterday. It's not that Lincoln Riley said anything bad, but I think Lincoln Riley would prefer that he play in the bowl game. I mean, where Alex Grinch seemed to be a little bit more, I don't know, we wish him well, kind of, we appreciate everything he did for us. Or maybe I'm just trying to read into it.
In Tre Brown's attitude when it came to, to Baylor, like saying it's his last home game. I mean, he's had that mindset for at least the last 2-3 months. So it really didn't shock me that I know some people think, he needs to put on better tape, but I don't know who's going to, you had Mullins say flat out yesterday, he believes few more players are going to opt out. And if you needed to have some choices, you might think it's going to be Tony or Grimes. It might be the guys that, Brown would have a chance to really look good against.
I guess I just don't understand what he's like. He's going to be participating in the Senior Bowl, right? So I don't know. I found it. I don't fault him if he doesn't want to play. It doesn't really bother me. It's just kind of strange. I just don't really know what he's sitting out for. It's not like first round draft pick. He's not going to be
exactly
a pick.
Opt out round 1, round 2, maybe even round 3 in the right situation. Like, I get it. I can get there with you. But I mean, Tre, best case scenario is probably 4th. I mean, that's pretty optimistic in my opinion. I think he's more of a 5th or 6th kind of guy because he's going to go run a great 40. But he's 5'9", 5'10". I mean, he's got limitations that he can't fix no matter how much he trains or what he puts on tape. These are just things that people are going to knock him for, and he's probably a nickel in the NFL. And as valuable as those guys are in this era of the NFL, they're not guys you draft in the 1st or 2nd round. You don't do that. So, like I said, that's the part that's weird for me is just, I don't know that the risk is worth it. But I agree with Eddie. Like, I get it. It's a game that doesn't mean much to you. You're already on your way, but you're going to go to the Senior Bowl and compete, and you're going to run that risk there. But, I guess he sees that as more of a, job application kind of thing than this game that he doesn't have to be part of.
Sure.
Could you go out on a bigger high note? In the Festivus spirit, he pulled a Costanza. He left on the high note.
I like
That's
that.
true.
I like that.
Now, can we go to a quick hypothetical of what Kyle Pitts would have done to this secondary?
Oh, boy.
I'm thinking like 13 for like 195 and maybe 2 or 3 scores. Like Kyle Pitts he's one of the best college tight ends I've ever watched. He's incredible.
Well, he's the first ever Biletnikoff finalist that is a tight end.
That's wild. And guys, the Pro Football Focus had their mock draft today. They had the Ravens taking him. Can you imagine Andrews and Pitts on the same field? I mean, that's a lot of danger at tight end, kind of work in the middle.
It's like the Ravens they're destined to get the best tight end in every draft, aren't they?
Yes.
That's all they do.
I'm one of those guys, like, that's a position that in recruiting, I'm like, take 2 or 3 of those guys. How many really good 6'5", 260 athletes? I mean, do you ever say, like, we've got too many of those guys? No, move them somewhere else. Do something else with them. But guys that are that big and that athletic, you're like, we can probably find a way to have that help our football team. We can make use of that player.
Well, nobody. I'm curious to know, if Iowa State continues with their tight end situation, playing 3 at one time and all that, or if they evolve. I mean, do they just continue? Do they do that just? Did they do that just because that's their personnel, or if they get better wideouts, are they? Wideouts is such an option term for a receiver, isn't it? I heard some guy call into Al, ask about wideouts the other day. I was like, man, what year do you think you're in?
Did he say flanker?
Oh, flankers. That's even older term right there. Yeah.
I love him at split end.
You know what? The guy might have said split end. That might have been what he said instead of whiteout. But anyway, yeah, I mean, I'll be curious to kind of see what the thing about Iowa State is, it's kind of like with Kansas State. They can get better quarterbacks than Brock Purdy. Like, Brock Purdy's a good, solid quarterback, but they could do better.
That's fair, especially with what they're doing. I mean, there's no team in the conference getting more out of their talent than Matt Campbell and Iowa State right now. So if they could find a guy that, make that next step, like, because you could see him in a year or two get a guy like a Shane Illingworth, like a mid-level 4-star, borderline 250 kid that was a lot more acclaimed than Brock Purdy.
Might depend on just the belief and how long Matt Campbell's going to stay around, isn't it?
Well,
like, somebody's going to need to really trust him that he's not going to leave. I guess with the transfer stuff, it could be different these days, but
after that outburst on the sideline, there might not be any big programs that want to take a chance on him.
Well, and you know what? I would tie that into the programs that don't want to take a chance on him because of that. There's probably a reason they fucking suck. Just like Texas, just like Michigan, just like Florida State, all those schools. They could all use a little Matt Campbell fight in their head coach.
Arizona didn't call him. That's for fact.
He's not going to Cal anytime soon. That's for sure.
He's not a pacifist, I guess.
Hey guys, want to remind you, Dead Soxy, the sponsor of Unofficial 40 Podcast, and appreciate all the support that you guys have been giving them. Dead Soxy, DeadSoxy.com. I'm on their website right now. You can go shop all their collections, the great collections, the no-shows. If you want to have a great pair of socks that don't show above the shoe line, dress socks, alumni socks, collaborations, but you could go and they have a lot of different colors for colleges. So if you want to get the crimson and cream colorway, you can do that as well. You go to their site, you see they got a lot of different variations there. The Crimson 4-pack on sale right now for $56. And right now, you also get 35% off with promo code Holiday Pro. That's 35% off your entire order, excluding collabs. Just great socks. Eddie and I both wear them all the time. It's a great after-holiday gift if you miss somebody and you want to grab a pair of socks from Dead Soxy, or just for yourself, go look at the Boardroom collection if you need some really nice socks to impress when you finally get back in the offices. Hopefully that's coming soon for a lot of us. So Dead Soxy, great supporter of the Unofficial 40, and we appreciate you guys supporting them as well. That's DeadSoxy.com, 35% off with that promo code Holiday Pro. And as always, stay Soxy. Well, look, it's almost Christmas. We're sitting here on a Wednesday. The board has been melting down most of the day. I think
let's get into it.
Yeah, I think maybe we need to get into this. There was an interesting tweet by Annie Hansen, the recruiting coordinator at OU, earlier today, which she said was just an excerpt out of a book she was reading, which I don't believe you. But Josh, you've put news on the board today. What the hell's going on with Camar Wheaton?
I think that's a really great question, Kerry, and I wish I had all the answers to that. But Camar Wheaton, I can say this now. I mean, we're near the finish. This is the strangest recruitment I've covered in 20 years of doing this. I mean, he usually okay, you've got to dig up some things, or you're having to trust some people maybe that you haven't before. You just don't have the relationships, whatever it may be. There's things I'm used to dealing with. This, it's not one of them. He doesn't talk to anyone. I've talked to people at Lakeview Centennial. I've talked to people at Oklahoma. I've talked to people around the Alabama program. I've talked to everyone I can think of, and literally they're asking, I asked them, what are you hearing? What are you thinking? And they're almost firing the same questions back at me, wondering if I know something they don't, because it's a mystery. Like I said, he doesn't talk to anybody. He doesn't really have, the go-to guy that you would speak to, like the trainer or the 7-on-7 guy. I mean, he has those people around him, but he doesn't rely on them the way some kids do. So it's just been a really strange recruitment. But I would say the bottom line is, I talked to somebody at Centennial about 2 hours ago, and the feeling is he doesn't know when he's going to decide because he doesn't know what he wants to do. And this idea that, oh, it's Alabama or it's definitely Oklahoma, nobody knows. Like it really is just kind of up in the air. We'll have to see what he does. I'm picking Alabama right now because, frankly, he just hasn't had much communication with Oklahoma over the last few weeks. But again, that's kind of him. So I don't know if I should read into that or not read into that. It's just really strange because, like I said, he's talked to one coaching staff in the last 2 weeks, and it was for a couple of brief conversations with Alabama. And that's it. That's the only I kind of thought SMU might sneak into this. I'm told they don't think anything's happening with them. LSU hasn't been in touch with him in months. Like it's just impossible to know what the guy's thinking because even behind the scenes, he doesn't leave any trail. He's like a secret agent. You don't know what he's doing because there's no way to track his movements. He's just not doing anything.
There's ways to
Josh,
track
we know we know where Eddie's going with that. Well, Josh, we know where OU's running back room is and where things stand. What about Bama? Do they have room for someone like Wheaton? Would they just make room?
I have been told they would make room. And guys, I mean, I can honestly this, for the people who are like, oh, he signed with Bama or this has been done for weeks. Guys, I can tell you as of Monday, the Alabama coaching staff thought he signed with Oklahoma last Wednesday. Like, this is not something where, like, oh, the report, nobody knows. Nobody knows what this kid's thinking, what he's doing. I know he talked to Alabama last night. He did not commit. He didn't give them any indication. He just kind of talked to him and then went on about his business. Camar Wheaton is just an interesting dude to track. And, people are like, well, you going to do an interview with him? Man, I talked to him once, and I feel like I talked to a ghost. I mean, this guy, he shows up, plays football. From what I can gather, does pretty well in school, and that's it. Like, that's all I can really tell you definitively about him as a person. He is a once-in-a-lifetime guy to try and track. It's been very weird.
That was kind of be my question, Josh. And I hate to put it like this, but does he even want to play football? Like, is there a passion to play football there? And I guess we really don't know. And it's probably unfair to ask, but like with a guy like that, it's almost like, what else is going on here? Like, why doesn't he enjoy the process? Why doesn't he want to be out there and not even out there as far as like doing interviews and stuff? Just it is like it's almost like he's a Bryce Youngquist 2.0.
Well, and that's the thing, Eddie. I wonder about that myself. Like, and there's the only thing I can come up with a rebuttal for, Eddie, and you know it as well as I do. If you don't love football, I struggle to believe you'd go play for that Centennial team. Like, sure. I mean, that's not a good football team.
That makes sense.
He doesn't play behind a great offensive line. He's usually, shaking a guy in the backfield. Like, I mean, he is a guy that has had to work for every bit of success he gets at Lakeview. Now, at the same time, he is immensely talented. And a lot of times you get those guys and they play football because they're good at it, not exactly because they care about it. I could see that. He's a little aloof. But at the same time, I don't have anything to base that on. That's just kind of, connecting dots with him a little bit. But, I mean, it does feel like there's something that doesn't make sense here. Something doesn't add up. Because I've had plenty of kids that don't like the recruiting process that are talking to coaches. They're trying to, if you don't like the process, you're trying to get it over with. You're not extending it out to December 23rd. You're going to commit as early as you can, especially at running back, where schools don't want to wait for you. If this wasn't a COVID year, Oklahoma would have given him an ultimatum months ago to be, hey, you're in or you're out. Let's move on. Because they did it with, last year with the running back from the Fresno, Kendall Milton. They did the same thing with him and then moved on to Jason McClellan and Seth McGowan and kind of moved in that direction. So Oklahoma didn't want to wait this long, but being kind of a unique year, they kind of let it go because they weren't going to be able to close on some of the other guys they wanted, Donovan Edwards and LJ Johnson and some of those names. So they kind of moved forward with Wheaton thinking, okay, we'll get him in the end. And they still may, but it's anybody's guess right now.
Josh, if they don't get Wheaton today, tomorrow, whenever the heck he finally makes it known, do they try to keep pushing with him up until signing day, though?
I honestly don't think so. I know there are some, that have said on the board, I think we dropped him. I don't think Oklahoma dropped him. I haven't talked to anybody that's given me that indication. Now, like I just said, I think Oklahoma would love to have had a commitment from Donovan Edwards to be like, you know what, Camar, best of luck with whatever you're going to do. We need to move forward. We got to focus on some other guys and some other positions. But they don't have that advantage. I mean, he's their only running back on their board right now. So they've got to ride it out and see what happens. At the same time, once he commits, how do you recruit a kid that doesn't talk to you? Like, I don't know how you turn that around when he won't answer the phone and he won't call you. You've just got to kind of live with what you have. So, like I said, I think if he commits today to Oklahoma, I would guess Alabama still tries to work him a little bit, but I don't know that they'll have much more success with it. But if he commits to to Alabama, I think Oklahoma just says, we're going to go to the transfer portal. We'll see what we can find. Just because this has been such a chaotic mess that, it's fine to lose out on a guy, but it's not as good if you don't know why. We couldn't even really recruit you. We just were kind of involved in your recruitment. And when you needed something from us, we'd hear from you.
What does that make of DeMarco Murray as a recruiter? Is it unfair to judge him knowing what he's had to do in his first year as far as recruit, through Zoom, not really be able to be hands-on? Is it almost an incomplete grade? Is it a fail? I think that's where the fan base is going to probably look and probably blame the most, right?
I that's only natural. I mean, it's going to happen. Now, I am always a guy that says you can't grade on year one. It just, you don't have, Camar Wheaton, go compared to Jay Boulware, who offered him, 2 years ago as Oklahoma running backs coach and has a much longer relationship, a lot more track record. He has all those things. And Texas didn't even, is nowhere near his recruitment. So, there are ways you can look at that. But to me, like I said, year two, we'll know more. There's no question this is disappointing. If Oklahoma does not land Camar Wheaton, that's a very disappointing running back class. Following, the miss on Jason McClellan late last year, all of those things. Oklahoma's running back room is just not where it should be for an offense that has produced the points they have, has, multiple backs in the NFL. They should be doing more in recruiting than they are right now. So there's just no way to argue that. But at the same time, I don't put that all on DeMarco Murray. I don't think that's fair. I don't think that's reasonable or realistic. So we'll see. In a year, I think we'll know more. Oklahoma's already in on some good backs. We've talked about Raleek Brown, Gavin Sawchuk. They've got a good start for some guys, but they're going to have to close because you can't just keep doing this year after year where you're punting to next year and we'll fix it in the next class, because eventually you just have nothing on campus that can really help you.
Well, Josh,
just real quick.
Punting the next year might be Kennedy Brooks.
Yeah, obviously that, we reported that yesterday. That's, a big win for Oklahoma. I mentioned it on the board. It sounds like he's been in the weight room, kind of around the team all season. So I don't know about you guys. I'm a little surprised. I kind of thought Kennedy Brooks would move on in some fashion. It just, the way that ended and the way it seemed like there was a little bit of friction about how that, how that was handled or whatever. I just kind of didn't know how that was going to play, but it sounds like they expect him back. Obviously, having a guy that's rushed for 1,000 yards a couple times in his career, that's a big win and makes up for the loss of TJ Pledger heading into the portal. But like I said, do I know that Kennedy Brooks is the kind of guy you go and win a national championship with? I don't know about that. But he's definitely a nice change of pace if you could get Stevenson to return.
And I think that is, talking to the players yesterday, I think the most notable thing was, and maybe it was the loaded question by me to Creed about, would a national championship or the possibility of winning a national championship bring you back? And he just said, I have thought about that. Guys, I didn't really get a read on Ramondre one way or the other. How about you?
No, really, because the way he said it is like, no matter where I'm at, the the other running backs I'm going to be with are going to be good, and I'm going to be happy that I'm with them. So he really, because we asked about Kennedy Brooks coming back, would that mean anything to him? Would that change his decision any? And he didn't give any inclination whatsoever, one way or the other, that this means, yeah, I'm definitely staying, or yeah, this definitely means I'm going to be out the door now.
So yeah, I mean, with Kennedy Brooks set to come back, if he does come back, you're fine. You can get past it if you lose Wheaton to Alabama. But I think you got to be done with just recruiting one running back. I mean, especially when you look in. It looked like Marcus Major was a really good pick compared to Breece Hall, but clearly, just like the NFL, there's a lot of running backs out there that you can hit on. I mean, one of OU's best of all time, Quentin Griffin, he's one of those guys.
Yep. Oh, guys, I think the one that stings OU probably the most, and even if they lost Wheaton, was Travion Henderson. He was all set to take a visit, was going to come for the spring game, and then everything shut down right before OU could get him there. And that to me, there's no question. That was the running back they wanted. He was the guy. I mean, Lincoln Riley was almost exclusively recruiting him. They were very involved. And at that point, the kid just said, okay, I'm going to go to Ohio State. He knew them a little better. There was a little more familiarity, a little closer to home, all those things. And if Oklahoma could have brought him for a visit, maybe they turn his head. But with that never able to happen, you look at these guys like Kelvin Gilliam, some of these other guys that Oklahoma was able to win because other schools couldn't host them. It's the same deal with Henderson. Oklahoma never got a chance to turn his head.
So, all that being said, depending on what happens to Wheaton, you kind of said it before the podcast started when we were just talking, Tristan Leigh becomes a really big deal.
It just massive. I mean, you throw in, guys, 2 weeks ago, there was a very realistic possibility OU lands Emeka Egbuka, Bryce Foster, Camar Wheaton, and Tristan Leigh for 4 or 5 stars to close your class. Now, it's looking like one, and OU is going to be in a dogfight with Florida and LSU to the finish line here. So he is key just because of the way you want this class to be perceived. It closed well. You got your 5-star offensive tackle that Oklahoma really needed. I mean, after a couple of classes where they landed good players, I think Stacey Wilkins kind of being the highlight of that group. But so far, Anton Harrison's the only young offensive tackle that's really done anything to make you think, okay, that guy's a difference maker. So Oklahoma needs that guy to forget that, Tristan's little brother Aiden already holds an OU offer and is a big-time prospect in his own right. So there are a lot of reasons he's a key recruit, but Oklahoma needs to stem the tide here because it just feels like things – and I don't think it's OU's fault. I don't think it's anything like I don't think it's a sign of anything. It's just perception being reality. It is perceived that something's going wrong here when the reality is you've just got 3 guys making random decisions that didn't work out for Oklahoma.
Do you think in any way that I'm grasping at straws just to kind of figure out kind of what happened, but do you think in any way like the way that Caleb Williams has gone about recruiting, does that – I think we always talked about the positive side of it. Is there a negative side of it as far as maybe it rubs some guys the wrong way?
I don't know about that. I mean, because, there's no – like you talk about the guys we've mentioned. I mean, Emeka Egbuka, that was clearly a big factor. I think that was almost what got OU in the door.
Sure.
And, he hung out with them in Norman when he was there for his visit. So, now there are some guys that absolutely do it. And a funny name that I can recall that players – I remember players saying, oh, we're not – he's maybe a little too much. Jeff Lebby was that kind of guy. Jeff Lebby rubbed a lot of people the wrong way when he was being recruited because he was so kind of in their face and overbearing. And some guys kind of like, I didn't really want to take visits with him because he was just going to be in my face the whole time. And that's not what I've heard about Caleb. I mean, everybody really likes the way he comes at it. He's very passive. He's not overly aggressive and trying to sell them the whole time. He just, we're 2 guys hanging out. I'd like to play with you, that kind of thing. And of course he works in a pitch from time to time, but it's not the same thing.
I guess that was just kind of almost a devil's advocate way of just wondering what has happened as far as the meltdown that has ensued since the every time that it seems like bad news. And in a class in which it's kind of like we were talking about before we started here today. It's like you would think right now is the time that you would want to jump on with the way that they rebounded, the way that the defense has had it. I know that they're not defensive guys, but I would think that, from the outside looking in, this is the time to kind of get in the circle, because it seems like Oklahoma's about to take off as far as really taking that next step towards competing for a national title.
Absolutely. Within the program, everything looks as good as it's looked. I mean, I don't know how you would find a lot of problem with what's going on. The defense is finally playing football. You feel like the best players are some of the young players. I mean, Devon Graham, Woody Washington, you run down that list. There's a lot of good young talent in this roster. And yet you're bringing guys back next year that you didn't even have this year. Jalen Redmond, Kennedy Brooks. I mean, you're bringing back some big names to that roster. And it seems like it's all there for the taking, and Oklahoma just kind of sputtered. It's been a weird, kind of hard to understand thing. But at the same time, I mean, the problem is everybody always wants to lump all these together and make them one collective. Well, these guys all did their own thing, so it's got to be one root problem. Emeka Egbuka had been headed to Ohio State for over a year, and Oklahoma made it really close at the end. They just couldn't overcome Ohio State, who has put out one of the few schools that can say our receiver room has stands up to yours just fine. I mean, they're one of the few schools putting out NFL guys at probably an even better clip than Oklahoma is. Then you look at Bryce Foster. Kid grew up an A&M fan. His mom posts on Texags. It's amazing Oklahoma made it as interesting as they did. You go down the list. And then with Camar, that's the one that's tough. That's a Dallas area guy. Texas wasn't involved. That's a win you got to get. That's if that's your only running back and he's at such a huge need position, that's a tough one to explain. You need to close that some way, somehow. And if Oklahoma were to miss for the second straight year on a big time back out of Dallas to Alabama late, man, that's tough. That's a hard one to understand. But like I said, you go land Tristan Leigh. You've got a good offensive line class. You did close with Savion Byrd, who we've not even talked about. A top 10 offensive lineman in the country, or top 10 offensive tackle anyway in the country. And it's almost like he didn't happen because some of the other things didn't go OU's way.
And Lee has still been talking with Caleb Williams, at least through social media, throughout this entire week. So I don't feel like he's been turned off by him. It's just kind of curious that, he didn't sign, and now it's OU versus Florida in the Cotton Bowl. But I think the days of the head-to-head winner meaning anything in recruiting is also probably done too.
Largely. I mean, especially in this, guys, we're talking about Oklahoma's best corner won't be there. Florida's best player, flat out, period, won't be there. I mean, I don't know how you could gauge it like that, because it's just not going to make a lot of sense. I mean, Florida, one of their starting offensive linemen is the kid that signed with Texas or committed to Oklahoma, then ended up signing with Texas, is now back at Florida. I mean, it's just nuts. I mean, it's hard to keep track and to worry about such things. So, like I said, I think Oklahoma still leads for Tristan Leigh. I think his relationship with Caleb Williams is really, really good. He's been out there a couple of times. Bill Bedenbow and his mother and Tristan talk frequently. So there's nothing that tells you, oh, this is a danger zone. It didn't work out well for Oklahoma that he didn't sign, because everybody thought that would be Oklahoma. But just because he didn't then doesn't mean that Oklahoma's lost ground. He just didn't decide to sign. So, well, Oklahoma has to hold that lead, but you'd rather them be in front now than be behind. You'd rather be in OU spot than Florida's right now.
All right. So outside of that, I mean, waiting on Wheaton, maybe we'll hear something. Maybe we won't know until freshmen show up next year where he went to school. I would assume that would never be the case. Someone will release something at some point. But
what if he's one of those kids that just puts together like a 45-minute full-length movie? Maybe that's why he's kept it so quiet.
Like he's actually Scorsese and we never knew it.
Yeah, that'd be badass.
And it's one of those things where you can't fast forward it through YouTube. You have to watch from beginning to end.
Well,
so whoever started
I'll
the
wait
second,
for 45 minutes. I'll wait for 45 minutes for somebody to watch that shit. I'm not watching it. Let me know.
Eddie, that's horseshit because you know which one of the four of us has to sit there and watch that bullshit.
Yeah, let me know in 45.
Well, you just put on the background, walk away for 40 minutes, and then get ready.
Maybe he flashes letters up every 4.5 minutes, and then you got to spell it out.
And you only show up for the A, and then you don't know at the end.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. Really, I mean, I don't know what's going to go on in this bowl game. I would assume if Kyle Trask was going to opt out, he'd do it now since all the Heisman votes are in. That's what I was thinking of yesterday. Like, when do the Heisman votes get in? Because that's probably when Kyle Trask opts out if he opts out. And we've seen, I mean, who was the West Virginia quarterback that opted out? The Florida transfer? Will Greer. He's done it. I'm trying to think of other big name quarterbacks that have done it.
That have opted out of the bowl game?
Yeah.
Oh, man.
It's not
It's
common.
not a large list yet.
No.
It's going to get bigger in years to come. But
Jalen Hurts opted out last year in the Peach Bowl.
I just have to think with him, you know, it's just like that linebacker. I bet Florida thinks that they're going to do exactly what LSU did to OU last year.
Oh, 100%.
Yes. They're like, this is Oklahoma. They can't play defense. Everybody thought they were better last year, and they got thrashed by LSU.
I think forgetting completely that they lost at home to a awful, ugly, redheaded stepsister of that LSU team.
Yeah.
And, that LSU team's an all-timer. I mean, people like to forget they pretty much ran away from Clemson in the national championship game. That's a really good Clemson team that they just kind of beat over the head.
The one thing that, if I'm Florida, the one thing that worries me is we made Najee Harris look like a generational running back in that game against Alabama in the SEC championship. Like, Najee Harris is good. He ain't that good. Like, he was just destroying them.
Well, and who has a very similar skill set to Najee Harris? I'm not saying he's as good as Najee Harris, but who is very similar in the way he plays and the way that OU can utilize him.
And Najee Harris looked like a power back in that game, too, which, I mean, he was running over people, running through people. Ramondre Stevenson could have a field day against Florida.
If they can block. But, I mean, and that's the thing. This is the weird part. Like, we're so used to – these are two teams that are doing things we're not used to them doing. Florida has all sorts of problems defensively, but offensively is very proficient.
Oh, yeah, they're great.
Oklahoma has problems offensively, but all of a sudden is playing really good defense. I don't know what to make of either of those realities. So we'll have to see what's what. But, I mean – there's no question that when Florida's offense is on the field and Oklahoma's defense is on the field, that's going to be the best matchup of the day. That's going to be fun to watch.
Look, LSU is the only other team besides Alabama that has tossed Oklahoma around. I mean, it's like, Bob Stoops made his name on going in and beating Auburn, beating Alabama. I mean, taking on the SEC. They hated him. Lincoln's lost to Georgia in overtime. He lost badly to LSU. He lost badly to Alabama, even though their offense was so good. It made it look respectable with the final score. But Lincoln's not the one that's had the SEC victories here. It was all Bob. So this is kind of on him a little bit. Like, he does not want to go and get embarrassed in this bowl game.
It's kind of like a two-parter. It's like, I think I truly, and I'm not somebody that just thinks bowl games are the end-all be-all, but I think it is important to go into the offseason for the first time in a long time with a good taste in their mouth. I mean, they've kind of been licking their wounds the last couple of years, and I know that they've come in college football playoffs, but they've been off bad performances too. I think it's important to go into 21 with kind of some good momentum, and I know that the coaches and the players would tell you that they're not really connected, but I think kind of psychologically they are.
Eddie, you're getting dangerously close to copyright infringement, so I'm gonna, my attorney will be speaking to you soon.
This group, though, it's important for that. Especially if you're going all in on 21. I mean, I don't know. It's kind of weird. And then I guess you also have to ask, like, Sunday afternoon, Monday afternoon, when you find out that both teams are going home, which I don't have a problem with. It's almost kind of like the bowl game is just the bonus to the season. It's like, if we get there, we get there. If not, whatever. We'll check everything in next week. But it seems like the Cotton Bowl is going to be able to work it out as far as New Year's 6-day games. If you have to push it back for COVID, they're going to do that.
Yeah.
I wish all my
Which
friends...
might be even tougher. Because if the mental strain, if you think it's over December 30th and then it goes to like January 10th or something, that might be even harder to stay physically, mentally sharp. So I
almost wonder
really
if the
don't know
school
how
would just
that's
be like,
going to work.
screw it.
Yep.
But I guess they have to play to get paid. I mean, I don't know.
I don't even know what you're talking about because I'm slightly triggered. My friends keep texting me, nice question, Casey. Thanks to the Cotton Bowl.
Casey
I think
Burdock?
the Scotty. Casey Burdock I was at one point yesterday.
Casey Burdock.
And he got Bob
Casey
Prisbillo
Burdock.
right every time. It doesn't make any
It was
sense.
amazing. It really was.
Has anyone ever met someone with the last name Burdock? How do you even get there? Like, surely you read that and you're like, nope, that's wrong. Like, that's got to be Murdoch. Because we all have met someone with that name. I've never heard of someone named Burdock.
And it's set, but like my name is spelled out right there. Like it's just a big black screen
you
with your name
register.
on it.
Yep.
He called
So
me
you
Casey
just
at least.
passive aggressive.
He called me Casey at least 3 times, and he apologized one time.
Yes.
After I think it was Ronnie Perkins answered my question, and then he called me Casey again after he apologized. I don't know. But please stop texting me and calling me Casey, all right? There's already some asshat in this state who makes weird, like in the house or something that is in the panhandle that makes all kind of embarrassing Oklahoma statutes and stuff. Anyway.
Oh, yeah, he's your cousin, right?
No, we're not related at all. Don't I get a little break because it's Christmas? All right.
Well, at least we ask questions. Sorry.
Oh my God.
Okay. Anyone out there listening that knows you're responsible for that, Bob just took a shot at you. You deserve to look in the mirror. If Bob has had enough of your bullshit, you need to stop.
I'm sure they're going to write stuff off of it. They didn't ask any of it.
And I'm sure it won't just be like a Q&A, basically, of what was said.
We're still waiting to find out if Eddie can go or not. I mean, that's the big question.
I don't need anything else for Christmas. I just got it. That's all I needed.
Bob taking shots on the pod?
Yeah.
God.
That's how we're talking about the Media Cooperation Award video.
That wasn't bad.
Now, I want it to be known that as soon as I saw someone take the shot of, why do you have the drain in the background? I knew exactly why that happened. Anybody that's ever lived in an apartment knows exactly why that happened.
Should have just taken out the toilet. I just didn't do it. Not dedicated, I guess.
Just bag that sucker, Eddie. Pull it up and be done with it. A couple of bolts and you're ready, man. No problem. Turn the water off.
Yeah, that's not my fault.
Outside of that, yeah, we're just waiting to see if Eddie's going to be allowed at the Cotton Bowl. I don't think you've been allowed on the road one time this year, have you? To anything?
No.
Negative. Ready to get into 2021.
Jeez.
Speaking of, Tiffany is our first vaccinated
nice. Very
peripheral
nice.
member of the pod.
And she is in the medicine field, so it's not like Linda snuck her in to a vaccination or something.
No, I mean, obviously we pulled all the unofficial 40 strings to make this happen. You know, all of our
And we
power
nominated
and clout.
your wife, yes.
Yes, not any of ourselves. We put my wife in
I am waiting for, like, this is our next PPP thing, like the next scandal, like when someone, a celebrity or something, we find out got the vaccine before a nurse did somewhere or something, because that's happening at some point.
Oh, sure. No, she, her biggest issue was apparently soreness. The shot in her arm bothered her for several days, but without exception, seemed no real symptoms from it, anything like that. So so for all those out there looking forward to your vaccine, hopefully it goes as well.
I can't believe I'm going to say this, but I sometimes get soreness after my tee shots.
Yeah.
So it could just be the needle hitting the muscle in the wrong place.
Sure. I mean, now, which part of the arm does the soreness start in, Carrie?
It's the thigh. I shoot him in my thigh.
I thought you always got to start with a good vein in the arm.
No, what you have to do is, so you put the needle in, and then you have to pull it back to make sure you're not on a blood vessel. And then if no blood comes up, you go ahead and shoot it. But if there is blood, you just have to move the needle to a different place. Which I think I only had to do that one time.
I mean, Eddie's spoken like a man with a rubber hose next to that bathtub that he lays in. So,
yeah, those. I like to do black tar on Sundays. It really mellows me out when I watch Red Zone.
Josh, I have not gotten a Christmas card from you.
it's on the way. We were a little late in getting those out this year.
Bob, where's
I told
my
Tiffany
pearl
I was
card?
going to hear about this on the podcast and be judged, and I feel badly about it. But
How long
like I said,
did the photo
Eddie
shoot
just the other
take?
day what his address was.
How long did the photo shoot take?
Well, we just used the photos. You guys have already seen these photos. That's the really disappointing part for you.
Oh, you didn't get a whole new.
These are from the prior shoot. So we got some close-ups of Layla and Lainey. I think you guys are going to really like how it came out, but nothing, no new material.
Did you guys read that? Did you read the wedding photographer deal in Texas Monthly?
Yes.
That was
bits and pieces of it. Yeah.
That was insane. Like families that, hell or high water, they were going to have their wedding, and one of them, the bridesmaid, had COVID, but they didn't tell anybody because they didn't want it to ruin the wedding.
Or like the groom got it the night before.
Yeah, just ridiculous story. And this is all coming from wedding photographers who are like, and the bride would like pull her aside, like, now I just want to tell you, she's got the COVID, but it's okay.
It's okay.
Because I'm absolutely not a health professional. But I'm telling you,
and the
fine.
wedding photographer's like, I have small children, and they have to do all that because this is the season where they're making their livings. So like it's like they're choosing to work, so it's just funny. I mean, the whole thing is ridiculous, and I'm glad the vaccine is coming. We've talked about this before. I mean, you've done Christmas with your family. I'm doing it with mine. I mean, I had a COVID test on Monday.
Yeah, we did my Christmas with my family last week, and it was very much a limited crowd. It was basically my parents, my brother, my sister and her family. Like, it was very, very minimal. Even my poor brother had somebody close to him had a little exposure, so they were worried, so they wore masks. I mean, like, it's just crazy. I mean, like, the steps you have to take right now to make sure everybody's going to be reasonable and safe.
Eddie, I'm proud of you. You're not making any jokes, which I told you you're not allowed to do anymore. So I'm proud of you.
He muted himself. That's why.
I did mute myself.
No, I mean, it definitely, I would just say, still be careful, please. If you're listening, wear a mask. Vaccine is coming, but it's not here yet. I did just have two of my best friends on the planet. One lost a brother and one lost one of his best friends, and they were both in their mid-40s, so it's a bizarre-ass virus, man. You just don't know what's going to happen. And I know some of our members, I mean, they've told stories. Who was it? JT Hawk Like it just knocked him on his ass, and he didn't think he made funeral plans and stuff, and he ended up coming out of it.
It's crazy.
It's a crazy ass time. So there's my soapbox. I'm off it. Eddie, congratulations for not being a shithead. I appreciate it.
Thanks.
Survivor.
Thanks.
I'm glad you did that sincerely as it sounded, Eddie.
That was me being sincere. That was.
I don't think you can really say thank you for not being a shithead sincerely. Like, that doesn't feel like a real thank you.
Eddie, did you feel that was sincere coming from me?
Yes.
You see, he speaks my language. Asshole language.
Yeah.
He speaks asshole. So anyway, I just now I know some people get upset about family time, but it's the holidays, so I want to hear about the girls. Like I'm sure that Pearl doesn't really know what's going on. Maybe she does, Bob.
I know. We're gonna find out in a couple days.
So you're gonna
how much
Santa's coming, and you're gonna see if she really understands that she's getting gifts and things.
Mm-hmm. She's walking around like crazy. So we've had to.
Does she like the trees, and does she like the presents and the stockings and stuff?
She was taking them down ornaments, so we had to move all the ornaments a lot higher than where they were before.
And Josh, your girls, I'm sure, are just insane about it.
Yes, mine. We're in that peak age. I mean, this is Lainey. Obviously, has gotten it for a while. Layla, this is the first year where you can tell Like, we took her to see Santa, and she was like, Santa's going to bring me presents? Like, you could see, like, the light literally switch on. And she was like, thank you. Like, she told him thank you. Like, it was a whole thing. So, but yeah, no, it should be a pretty funny year, because now Layla can, like, finally open her own presents and really do it herself. And she just got done with her birthday, so she is now well practiced. So it should be pretty funny, and they're going to get, we do they each get like one big gift each year that, it isn't wrapped and all that kind of stuff. So they're gifts from Santa. I got to, people listening again, mute it. That's their gift from Santa. So, so it should be just a rolling ball of shrapnel around our Christmas tree in our house. So
I have not put up a Christmas tree in maybe 10 years.
Carrie, that makes me sad. Like, I want to,
but I'm never here. I mean, like, it was
send you a tree.
Like, I had a tree. I just threw it away this year because it got water damage. But I never put it up because we would go to a bowl game, and then by the time we came back, it was like July 2nd, and it was always depressing. It was more depressing to come home with a tree than it is not to have one at all when you're never here.
I agree. I agree with that.
It's just like when we would go to New Orleans, and on January 2nd, they would start ripping down the garland and stuff. It would piss me off. I would want to yell at them, like, leave it up until I leave, please.
Yeah, but they had to put the gumbo station somewhere.
That was me and Eddie last year, since we stayed till Sunday when the game was Saturday. The hotel was starting to take down all decorations. It felt really strange.
I hate that.
I literally now December 26th, Saturday, guys, I will be busy taking down Christmas shit. That will happen immediately.
See, I don't understand that. Leave it up till January 1st.
Practices to go to this year.
That's the best part about the whole thing. Normally that's my excuse, but this year I'm like, it's just habit. I'm taking it down December 26th. That's going to happen.
So there will be no Under Armour game. There will be no All-American game. Is there any plans for anybody else to have a game?
There has been talk of like the Team USA having a game or something like that, but the logistics of that are just really hard for me to understand. You got kids from all over the country, and at Team USA, they usually play like Team Canada or something.
Yeah.
Like, how do you make that work?
Plus, all these other kids were already committed somewhere else, so they probably told you no at some point. You'd have to just start from scratch.
What is interesting is Tristan Leigh was supposed to announce at the Army game, but
it's not the Army game
with
anymore.
him not signing. Does he decide not to do that?
Aren't they having a television? I heard they were having a television special anyway, and
they're having like a 2-hour celebration special,
and they'll announce.
So I thought that's when
the
announcement was going down.
And that is the plan. But when he changed the idea of kind of quietly signing on December 16th, I don't know if that then also changed his public announcement. Does he wait until signing day number 2 and just do both at the same time? I don't know. I'm not saying that his plan has changed because I just don't know. But it kind of makes you wonder, like, if you weren't ready on December 16th to sign, are you sure you're going to be ready on January 2nd to commit? Or even if you do commit, is it still just the wild, wild west for the next month with Florida, LSU, and Oklahoma?
Yeah, the football we still get to see is Texas high school as Billy Bowman. They're playing Saturday. They could be playing middle of January.
Yeah, and I mean, and as good as Ryan is, there's a pretty good chance they'll be playing to that point in the season. I mean, that's a super, super talented team that we've talked about a lot. That's the nice part is the two guys I would like to see some more of are Billy Bowman and Savion Byrd. Savion Byrd plays for one of the top 5 teams in the whole country in Duncanville, and Billy Bowman plays for Denton Ryan, one of the best teams in the state. So you're talking about 2 teams that I should get at least one more chance to see. Won't be seeing them this weekend, not looking to offend the entire family. And as I said, Saturday I will be busy with Christmas lights. So, real life strikes sometimes. But, like, for example, Savion Byrd plays Christmas Eve at 2:30 in the afternoon in the Waco area. I can't go to that.
I thought
my
took
family would
Thursday,
disown
Friday
me.
Off.
Yeah. I like I said that, and I mean I get that's why they're doing it so early. It's at 2:30, but that game's at 6. I wouldn't get home till probably 10 or 10:30 on Christmas Eve. And as Bob and I have already discussed in this podcast, there is assembly to do. I would be in trouble for that action.
What's Linda for then?
Linda just cleans at this point. I don't know how many more times I can ask her to be here Christmas Eve or Christmas Day to help with all our wrapping. It's like she's got a family of her own. It's a whole thing. We're a little bit at odds right now.
If I'm Linda, I'm holding out when I see that you just moved into James Harden's neighborhood. I'm officially. I'm going to go to Cabo, work out there, and just demand my agent work out a new deal.
Linda doesn't say a lot to me, but she likes the new house. There was the 3 gates she had to get through, but other than that, she really liked the house. So, she was impressed for sure.
Oh, Mr. Josh, you have lots more money than I thought.
Oh, if only she knew it's all from my wife.
Yeah, you're a sugar daddy, or she's your sugar mama.
That's 100% factual.
She's so important, she already got the vaccine, so.
Yes. Yeah, well, I mean, and I got one of our most beloved Crimson Corner posters sending me a message over the week that I pretend to be this big, important person with lots of money. Guys, I don't make a lot of money, so let's be real clear. Apparently, there was a misunderstanding somewhere in there. But
you're a local journalist that only does one story a day. You must be making 6 figures.
Absolutely. I'm a recruiting reporter in my late 30s. I mean, you talk about life success. Everybody look up to me, kids.
That lady got ghosted. She's no longer with us, by the way. Kind of like Sam Ellinger is no longer with us. I ghosted him this week.
Well, Sam just said today he's not sure if he's coming back.
I know. I saw that.
Next year.
I've heard that decision has been made, and he is not.
I just think that there's some... It's kind of like I feel with Creed. It's like, I know you didn't have the dominating year that you wanted to have, but I just don't know if coming back another year... And I know people are going to be like, screw you, Murdoch. I just don't know if coming back is the right way to do it. Like, now for Creed, it'd be for the possibility of a national title, but is it really smart for him to come back when he's played for 4 years?
Yeah. Personal opinion, I would say that Creed's probably gone. Now, it does seem like it might be more realistic that you get some of those defensive guys back. Like, I did walk away from the interviews maybe over the last couple weeks, and maybe it's just a way that Alex Grinch has talked about it and kind of hinted towards it. I definitely think that he wants those big guys back up front, and obvious reasons, but I think he honestly believes that they could help themselves by coming back.
I think Isaiah Thomas, just because physically he could continue to add to his frame a little bit. I mean, he's a guy who looks like his pants are too big for him at times. Like, he just doesn't fill out a uniform. And I know it's because he's long and lean, and they probably don't usually make football pants for guys built like him. But it's just like, I think his name could really get out there a lot more. But, I mean, he's got a lot of tape. He's got a lot of good tape. I don't know. I mean, to me, Perkins the one guy. Who's got to come back?
Thomas. I think Thomas and Perkins got to figure out their positions for the NFL draft.
Yeah.
And I don't know if Grinch and OU needs to help in that regard in terms of where they place them. But I don't know where either one of those guys would play at the next level yet.
Yeah, I mean, do you start standing up Perkins next year? I mean, that kind of takes away from Benito, doesn't it? If you're trying to do that.
Yeah, I mean, that's why I'm not sure how they're going to work out the logistics.
Benito's a guy that can get bigger too. I mean,
yeah,
he's a lean guy. It is amazing to think
he's quickly becoming one of the more draftable guys on that roster. Like, seems like that's happening really fast.
It's really amazing. You forget that Nick Benito was in that JV program kind of that they had like Marcus Hicks in. Like he didn't even suit out for games as a true freshman. He just worked out. He just did a full year of the offseason program.
Yeah, he played the first 2 games, I think, the 2 big blowouts, and then he was never heard from again throughout the rest of the season.
Yeah, they just buried him in the gym and told him get bigger and stronger. And man, it's really worked out for him. I don't know what the future holds for Marcus Hicks. I mean, he's probably one of those guys that I'm most curious about in the program right now. Like, which way is it going to go with him? The injuries, and then we haven't seen him. We just don't know. We went and saw him in high school, and we didn't even really know what type of player he is because he spent the whole game going against a 5'8" guy.
That was funny. That's when we knew that Breece Hall could be something.
Yeah. But again, like, I don't want to get back on the Camar Wheaton thing, but sometimes it's getting a Breece Hall, a guy that's that intriguing, is not such a bad thing. But his competition level, like we said, it wasn't great. Kansas high school football is not good. So anyway, that was a very rambly part of the podcast, I guess. Anything else you guys wanted to hit on? I mean, Sooners looked good last night, but not good enough against Texas Tech. And you could probably blame, well, you can definitely blame Austin Reeves for missing a chippy at the end. But Brady Manick disappeared in that game as well. My God.
2 points, 2 rebounds, 1 of 7 field goals. And
if he gives you anything, they win that game.
London put him in going down the stretch. That's the first time I can remember since he was a freshman, really, where he's not in during the stretch run of a competitive game. And Lon just said he knew Brady didn't have it that night. That's okay. He'll bounce back and he'll be ready to go. And he don't need to be ready to go because West Virginia comes to Norman next Saturday. As we've talked about that 4-game grind of Tech, West Virginia, at Baylor, at Kansas. If you're feeling sorry for yourself about missing that putback at the buzzer, it's going to get a heck of a lot worse if you cannot bounce back.
I would say that Davion Harmon had a sneaky good game last night.
Oh, he did. He played 38 minutes, too, and that's how I kept stressing. These guys have been playing like 20 to 25 minutes the entire season, and your first test, and they're Davion going 38 strong. That's the level of trust that he's really starting to earn. Maybe he's not the top 30 prospect from last year that people were hoping, but he's really started to find his role to where what he needs, what he can do, what he will do, and what you can trust him with.
It's kind of weird, Bob. It's like he isn't that guy that you thought as far as top 30, but now that he isn't that guy, I feel like he's going to develop into somebody that could be a program guy, if you will.
Yep, for sure. I mean, he's rolling with the punches. If he's on the bench, if he's a starter, he would love to be the point guard, but it's clear they love having Austin Reeves in that spot. And, maybe once upon a time that might have discouraged him or got him, down in the dumps, but he is just going with it, just going with the flow. And you're really seeing that confidence starting to get up to the next level. In fact, you see that with all the 2019 kids, Victory Walker, Jalen Hill, maybe they're not at that 150 level yet, but they're all significantly better and starting to find their own roles and figure out what their niche is and how they're going to help this team.
I went to bed before the West Virginia-Kansas game was over last night. As we're sitting here, I don't even know what the score was of that game last night. I assume Kansas stretched it out and won going away.
Yeah, the arch nemesis of the Big 12, Christian Braun, hit like 7 threes. I think they ended up winning by somewhere in between 12 and 15.
Which where do you think if you had a power rankings right now in the Big 12, where would OU sit, Bob?
They're sixth. I mean, you can't get up above those top 5 teams or in the top 15 of the entire country.
Yeah.
And you're not there yet. You're not Texas, West Virginia, Kansas, or Baylor. But I would take them against OSU or TCU. I mean, they already won in Fort Worth, so you know what they can do there. I mean, they're 6, but they want to be closer to 5 instead of closer to 7.
And I mean, you can't really say that OSU or TCU are disappointing so far. It's just that maybe they're not great teams.
Right. Exactly.
So, all right.
Just like football, basketball is going home and then coming back. So we'll see if COVID hits them at all.
Yeah, we haven't even talked about that.
Next week.
Florida and Oklahoma both being allowed to go home for Christmas, which look, you're not allowed to have a problem with that. You're just not.
Right.
I mean,
exactly.
I know people
they haven't been home since July.
I know. That's the thing.
That's insane.
And, when they were here in July, it was not fun. I mean, this has not been fun for them. Like, you have to let them go home. It's almost like, I think it's the coaches, and it's the right approach to take. It's like, look, if this causes us to have to delay the football game or cancel the football game, the bowl, it just has to be that way. You have to let these kids go home and see their families. Now, when they get home, you have some responsibility as a family not to throw a 100-person party in their honor.
The only person that can't go home, and I'm going to say this because I think he listens. I know he does. Ty Darlington cannot go home. He goes home to like 25 people.
I can't believe that not everybody has had it at this point. I mean, they've all been together for so long. Do we really think that anybody on the team has not had COVID?
They're nerds if they haven't.
Okay.
I mean, at least contact tracing. I don't know if everyone's had it yet, but contact tracing for sure.
To be young and in shape. It's never been a better time to be a young. So, but yeah, we'll wait and see if there's any issues that pop up, and they'll test everybody once they get back, and then they'll go from there, and then they'll do the contact tracing. So I would just say, they'll probably come back and everybody will be masked up in everything they do until they get their test results back, so they can limit the contact tracing. But they'll get back on the 26th. That would have been a
good question for Riley, was the testing order. Since the game's on a Wednesday, how does that throw off how they were going to do their test?
Well, we didn't even really get a full report on when they go down. Obviously they flew down for the Big 12 championship game, so they'll fly down for the Cotton Bowl.
I would assume it'd be the 29th.
Yeah, I bet Lincoln said, maybe get there a day early. He has a press conference on the 29th along with Dan Mullen, but it's still going to be over Zoom, so they could be in Norman and Gainesville doing it.
That's where that stuff doesn't matter now.
So, yeah, but I would imagine they'd get there on the 29th, stay in a hotel, and get up, go play the game and go home right after it's over.
Yep.
Just like a road game.
Kind of like us. I'm pumped about leaving the 30th and then just coming back the 31st.
Yeah. If we get in.
If.
Oh, I think we'll get in. That's a huge press box. So
it is.
Outside of that, any other things you guys wanted to hit on before we get out of here? Anything? Any jimmies rustled that we need to address?
Not that I can think of. I always think of something after we get down.
My boxes have been checked off. We hit what I needed to hit.
I'm just trying to rack I should probably make a list of these things, especially during the off season. Don't forget our fine sponsor, Dead Soxy, deadsoxy.com, DEADSOXY. Go check them out. Holiday Pro is the promo that they've got going for 35% off your entire order. So go check that out. Well, guys, I appreciate it. I hope everybody has a great holiday season. Hope you get some time away. Hope you get to responsibly spend some time with loved ones if that's in the cards for you. Hope that happens. But everybody be careful. Stay safe. Enjoy the bowl season. It is already going. Enjoy the fact that Alex Grinch is not a candidate at Arizona anymore and doesn't appear to be at Boise. And we'll see what happens the rest of the way. But right now it's looking like OU will have a defensive coordinator again next year. So am I jinxing anything? I don't know. But it's looking good right now. So we'll find out. Maybe. Nothing on Camar Wheaton before we get out of here? Nothing out there in the ether?
Nothing has happened that I'm aware of.
Not on all the notifications I've got set up. I got a
I was fixing it, but it's Camar.
I've got a bunch
Camar could have committed to Tennessee and South Carolina by now. I don't know.
That'd be a good gift for Shane Beamer.
Does he have, I don't even know this. Does he have a Twitter account?
He does.
Yes.
But has he ever said anything on it?
If you remember, he released his top 3 after
Oh,
midnight.
yeah. Yeah, I remember that now.
So he just doesn't care. He's going to do it whenever.
Does he follow Annie Hansen?
I don't know.
All right. That's going to do it.
Well, we're looking for coincidences.
We appreciate everybody listening in. It was a book passage. That's all it was. Come on, guys. We appreciate all you guys listening. Enjoy your holidays. Enjoy the family time. Enjoy the time away from work. And we'll see you guys again next week on another edition of the Unofficial 40 from Soonerscoop.com.